Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. It's been quite some time since I made a proper video on my YouTube channel, and it is a bit ironic because originally I started my channel because I wanted to make videos about applying for visa, applying for scholarships, applying for master programs, but later on I got quite occupied with studies, with sports and everything, and seeing that now I'm already graduated for quite some time and I did work at a company for a small while and also spent almost 7 months being unemployed and applying to jobs and PhDs. So I thought, why not take all of that experience and make a video for someone who could be a foreigner like me and applying for a job in EU or Germany in particularly, and maybe they could benefit from my tips. So this is why I'm making this video. So in this video I will talk about two things in particular. I will talk about the mistakes that I made in my job applications and I saw other people making, and also some general tips for all kinds of PhD or job applications. So a tiny bit of disclaimer before I start talking more on this topic is that even though the title of the video says applying for a job or a PhD, I exclusively only applied for jobs in Germany and neighboring countries like France, Netherlands and Spain. But I did get a few PhD offers, and in the end I decided to move on with one of them. So without wasting any more time, I start directly with how many applications I sent and what my initial impression of the German job market was. So in total I sent almost 150 job applications, and it sounds a lot, even I know it, but out of those 150, 106 were in response to a vacancy. These were direct applications where I applied to some kind of a job portal or some kind of a vacancy that was posted on a website and so on. And 44 of these job applications were initiative applications. So these are very common applications you can send in Europe or Germany as well, where you just inquire if there is a vacancy and then you ask to be hired. So I did this kind of explains why I sent so many applications. And out of the 150 applications, I did not hear back even till today from 58 of them. I got positive responses, even referrals from 27 of them, and from 67 of them I got immediate rejections. Out of these 27 positive responses, I did a lot of interview rounds. I think I did almost 30 interview rounds. So at least I can say I got pretty good at taking interviews, if that's the only positive thing to come out all of this. I finally got 3 to 5 job offers, and I say 3 to 5 job offers because when I finally decided which offer I would take up on, I still had some ongoing job applications which I said no to. So this is why I say 3 to 5 job offers. And this brings us to a conversion rate of slightly less than 3%. And I know this doesn't sound very good or very high, but as we move forward with the video, you would get to know how we can improve this conversion rate and how you can get a better conversion rate than I had. So starting on with the mistakes that I made during my job application phase. The first biggest mistake that I made was not starting early enough. Before I was unemployed, I was already working at a company, and I thought since I had some job experience and since I was already in Germany, I wouldn't have too much trouble finding a new job. But I was completely wrong, because the hiring period in many Central European countries such as Germany, France and Spain are extremely long and can take up to 3 to 6 months, especially for foreigners. So it is very important that you start early on, because you never know when something might go wrong. The second mistake that I made was falling for ghost vacancies, and it's a reason why I applied to so many of these jobs, because many of these job postings were not even real. And it is not something that I'm making up. There are actually investigative studies which show that a lot of job postings out on the internet are actually ghost vacancies, that is vacancies for jobs that do not exist. And companies do it for a lot of reasons. They could do it to check how the applicant pool is right now. They could do it to show that they are a growing company and claim tax benefits. They could also do it for some bureaucratic reasons, where they want to promote someone internally or hire someone internally internally, but just for ease of bureaucracy they have to put out some kind of an official position advertisement. It is pretty common in Germany. So even though it sounds very unfair, there are many ways in which one can spot these ghost vacancies, and the best way to do so is knowing someone who works at that institute or company, so that they can give you the correct news whether there is actually a vacancy in the company or not. And although this is the hardest one, this is the best way to know if a vacancy is a ghost vacancy or a real one. The second way to do so is looking at the company's hiring behavior by going through their older vacancy postings. If the company does not update their vacancy postings in a long time, it probably means that the HR department has not updated their careers website. Another way to spot these ghost vacancies are looking at the job description itself. If it sounds super generic or super vague, there might be a chance that the vacancy is not for a real job. So the third mistake that I made, or actually I didn't make, but I saw a lot of people doing it, is applying for jobs via job portals. And when I say job portals, I mean portals like LinkedIn, Xing, Indeed, and so on. And the reason I do not like these job portals is that the easier it is to apply for a job, the more number of people you are going to be competing against. And instead, I would suggest applying directly to the hiring manager or the department head or the professor, or applying through the website of the institute or the company. And when you do this, it shows that you put in the effort, and you immediately are a few steps ahead of most of the applicants. And at the same time, you can bypass the HR department, where your application might get lost in a larger pool of applicants. So in case you don't know who the hiring manager is or who is the person who is responsible for a particular job application, it is always important that you read through a job advertisement or a PhD advertisement properly to see who the person in charge is, and see if you can contact them by searching their name online and getting their email details. So the fourth mistake that I did was not updating my CV and my application documents for every job that I applied to. And this is quite important, especially when you're applying to big companies where HR departments use filtering software through which they pass your documents, such as your CV or your cover letters. And these softwares essentially look for specific keywords in your documents which are relevant to the role. So when you use these keywords from the job description into your documents, these softwares will allow your documents to go through. Otherwise, they just send you an automatic rejection immediately. This is why it is a bit important to put in a little bit of effort to make sure that your application documents have the relevant keywords which go with the job. The fifth mistake that I did was not asking for referrals. And when I mean asking for referrals, I mean asking for referrals from complete strangers on the internet, especially on LinkedIn. Now, I did ask for referrals from a lot of people whom I knew personally. So people whom I worked with, or people who were my classmates, or people whom I met through some kind of social or networking events, they would usually refer me to some kind of a job that they had in their institute or their company. But I never have asked for referrals from people on LinkedIn. So basically, whenever I saw an institute or a company where I would like to work, I would search that company on LinkedIn and go through their employee list and see whoever is working in my field. I would message them and ask them if they could refer me to a vacancy that their company has posted, or if they could forward my documents to the hiring manager if they knew it. And oftentimes some people refuse to do it, but I would say most of the times whenever I reached out to people on LinkedIn, I always got positive responses and a lot of support as well. So this is definitely something that I would say is very important for someone who is applying for PhDs or jobs. The sixth mistake that I did for my job applications was not preparing for standard interview questions. And I know it sounds very cringe, but literally every interview that you go to is going to ask you standard questions like where do you see yourself in 5 years, what are your career goals, what you like about the company, or what you did in your previous role, and why you want to work in that specific role, and so on. And although these are very generic questions, it is extremely important to prepare for these questions so that you do not stutter or you are not well prepared when facing these questions. So do not make this the same mistake that I made in the early stage of my job application phase, and be well prepared for all your interviews that you go to. The sixth mistake that I made, and I also saw a lot of people making, especially women, is not applying for all kinds of jobs. So it is quite well known that women tend to apply less when they see that their qualifications do not match to a job description completely, compared to men who are more confident in their abilities when applying to a job vacancy. And this is a big reason why you might miss out on your dream job because you doubted yourself. So I would suggest, if you see that your skills match at least 70% of the job requirements, you can still apply for that kind of a job. And even if it doesn't work out, it doesn't harm you in any way. The final mistake, the eighth mistake that I made during my job application phase, was not demonstrating enough German skills. So even if you are not a native speaker or not that good in your German, I would say recruiters or hiring managers find it very impressive when you try to speak in German, or you explicitly state that you are learning German, I'm willing to learn German. Of course, for a PhD, German is not essentially important, but if you're applying for a job, then the job market values your German skills a lot. Now, moving on to some general tips that you should keep in mind during your job application phase. The first tip that I would give you is to be more hopeful and to have a thick skin. You are going to get a lot of rejections throughout your job application phase, and especially in Germany, where it's not legal or not allowed by institutes or companies to give out the exact reason why they rejected you. It's extremely important to not take up a rejection personally and keep on applying. Of course, you make changes to your application process or your application documents with each application, but doesn't mean that you give up hope and stop applying altogether. And at the same time, as a foreigner, there is a high chance that you might face discrimination. Even I did as well during interviews or during some kind of hiring process. And it is quite important that you do not lose your hope with this and keep on pushing through all the rejections and through all obstacles and keep moving forward. The second tip is following a proper CV format and a cover letter format. So my CV kind of looks like this, and although I won't say this is the best format, you can use several online formats like Euro CVs or tabular CVs, which are very popular in Germany in the academia and industry settings. And for cover letters, I usually use Zing cover letter formats, which you can just get online when you type in Zing Anschreibenvorlage. And usually for PhDs, if you are writing a cover letter, it's quite important that you are very specific about your research interests and also what you like about the research group itself, as well as talking about your own skills, and definitely try not to be very flattery in your language. For job applications, I would usually try to put a referral at the very beginning of my cover letter so that the hiring manager sees that I am applying through someone mutual. And also I try to keep my cover letters very short compared to academic cover letters. Now, the third tip that I would give you is related with AI, and generally I would advise against using AI because it's quite obvious when you write cover letters using AI. However, I would advise using AI for checking your applications and checking your cover letters, whether you make any kind of grammatical mistakes or checking the tone of your applications. But I would advise against using AI entirely to write out your entire cover letter or your statement of purpose. The fourth tip that I would give you is taking up the entire job application phase as a full-time job in itself. So basically you would allot a specific time of the day during which you would check your job related emails, or when you would research companies, research institutes and so on, and the rest of the day you would spend it like a normal day when you were working a job or when you would be working a job. And this is very important if you would like to stay sane and not be preoccupied with thoughts of being unemployed or thoughts of your future life and so on. The fifth and final tip that I would give is it's very, very important to stay active and have a healthy social life during this entire period, because when you're unemployed, it is very common and very usual that you get left out of social contact and stay in isolation, which would not be very good, because when you are getting rejection emails from everywhere and also do not have much of a social contact with friends or family or colleagues, then it's very risky for your mental health, as well as the kind of applications that you sent won't be high quality when you're not in a good state of mind. So I would say that is all that I had to say about this entire topic. If you felt that you got something of value, then definitely let me know. At the same time, if you felt that I missed something, then please write it in the comments or something. And I hope I could help someone with this video.